Rachel Zegler is one of the most hated women in Hollywood currently, and she put herself into that situation. All of the statements she made going against the original Snow White and also going against fans. But now we're finding out that apparently, despite delaying the film date a full year, it's claimed that Disney still can't get things right with the live action version, and it is a mess and it is not working. I have a few different things to show off, but before we get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, follow me on social media, and consider supporting through Patreon or through YouTube memberships. Now, I wanted to start with this Cosmic Book News article, and it's what I'm going to be primarily referencing. It says a new rumor claims Disney's Snow White movie starring Rachel Zegler is still a big mess following massive reshoots. Now, we have said for a very long time at this point that there's not much that Disney could do except scrap this entire movie and restart, which of course they're not going to do. We have heard apparently that this movie's budget has already skyrocketed. It's already ballooned to over $200 million, and they expect it to keep going up from there. Because they've done a bunch of reshoots, they changed around characters like the dwarves, and they CGI'd them to death instead of having the real people, because the actors that they had originally chosen, everybody was roasting when those images were leaked. And it just seems like there's nothing at this point that they could do to save this movie. I mean, even if they did decide to restart and scrap what they had, and they still kept Rachel Zegler, it would still be a nightmare because she has irreparably damaged the image of just a Snow White live action in general. It says despite being completed, Disney delayed the release of Snow White by an entire year and reportedly canceled plans to release the trailer. Now, this wasn't very shocking because Disney was in damage control mode, and they said to themselves, are we able to fix her image in just a few months? And the answer was no. So they decided we are going to delay this by an entire year and hope that people forget. And of course, the internet never forgets. Whenever they release the full teasers and trailers, they're going to get absolutely annihilated. They're going to get ratioed to death. But they just don't understand why people do not like her. And she already went through the rounds. It seemed like Disney had already paid for appearances, already gotten interviews for her, because this was around the time when Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, the Hunger Games movie, came out. She was doing the actors on actors talks with Halle Bailey, who of course played Ariel, and she was going into interviews talking about this upcoming live action and how it was going to be this giant project and how she was so excited. They really stuck her with a new PR team and had her go into a giant amount of interviews, but that's because at that point the movie was only supposed to release 2 to 3 months later, and then they delayed it by a full year. It says originally it was supposed to be released on March 22nd, but now will be released March 21st, 2025, and Disney has also recently gotten rid of the executive that was the head of its live-action films, which follows big busts, including the live-action Little Mermaid. Yes, and he was, of course, the one who greenlit the Snow White and the one who was primarily behind it. And while we will never get an answer for certain, the reshoots could actually be at the behest of this new live action boss, this executive who has taken over this division. It says, though, following a rumor by Daniel RPK, who claimed Disney is doing something different with the poison apple in the film and stating the film was also praised for being great, the Empire City box office Twitter account shot down these claims. Now, it is important to point out that both of these sources have been actually correct about a lot of things regarding Disney and Marvel and Lucasfilm, so we don't know which to believe, but I do think it's important to point out that Daniel RPK typically reports on things that would be beneficial for Disney, and it definitely seems like he is very specific with the information that he releases, whereas Empire City Box Office just releases anything, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So Daniel RPK may not be telling us the whole story and might be, kind of adding on a lot of bells and whistles to what he's saying. Oh, it's praised for being great and they're doing something slightly different, but they're so excited for it. Yeah, but maybe this isn't actually the case, but Empire City said, I actually can refute this report. As I said months ago that it was in trouble before they moved it back a year. It actually is testing poorly, and those involved don't have much hope for it. The film is a mess and not working despite reshoots. It definitely seemed like the people behind this project were so extremely confident in it, and they were really hopeful that Rachel Zegler was going to carry this movie, that of course the films that she had previously been part of would be enough to bring in this big audience, because just a couple years ago she was the up-and-coming actress in Hollywood, and now of course she's one of the most despised actresses in Hollywood, and it just seems like whatever they were banking on when it comes to her, it's just not working for them. All of the different elements to this movie have not come together, and I do think that she is a major part of this. I mean, she had said that she was happy that they were changing things around, and there was also rumor that she didn't want to do a lot of romance scenes, that is why they ultimately decided to do away with a lot of the Prince Charming storyline, because she just didn't want to do that sort of acting, which of course is absurd. Why would you pick a Disney princess who is saved by her prince if you don't want to do kissing and romance scenes? And regarding what she said about Snow White, in various interviews she had said that she was scared and terrified of Snow White when she was younger, that Prince Charming is a stalker, that it's weird, and she actually admitted that she had not watched Snow White in full until she actually got hired for this role, and there are millions of women out there who would have loved to play Snow White, and I'm sure 100,000 of them that could have actually fit the bill for her, but instead they decided to go ahead with someone like Rachel Zegler, who had absolutely no respect for the source material at all. And I don't just blame her for this movie being a disaster, because behind the scenes, if you have of course actors who don't want to do specific types of scenes, yeah, they are at fault, but they're not at fault for the writing being changed. They could simply decide to quit and say, actually, this isn't a project for me. But when you have bad writers, the movie is never going to succeed, and it doesn't seem like Disney is hiring people who actually know source material and respect it, whether that's, you know, again, actresses, actors, and also writers, producers. It doesn't seem like anybody affiliated with this project really knew what Snow White was all about. Now, of course, take this all with a grain of salt, because they are just rumors, but when we hear rumor after rumor after rumor that says that this movie is a nightmare, I genuinely believe it, especially after a year delay when the movie was already near completion. At that point, it will be interesting to see what Disney does, if anyone else comes out and decides to refute or confirm these rumors. I will be keeping my eye on them, but it sounds like Rachel Zegler's Snow White is a complete mess, and even the reshoots are not helping this disaster. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.